Russia's decision to pull out of the Black Sea grain deal has humanitarian aid groups deeply concerned about how this will impact global food insecurity for some of the world's most vulnerable people. Insight on what humanitarian aid groups are anticipating. I spoke with Garella, Regional Director of Operations for the nonprofit Action Against Hunger.
The collapse of the grain deal is quite a worrisome news for an organization like Action Against Hunger. We are concerned that this is going to have an impact on food prices, on food commodities worldwide, and that the poorest countries are going to be the most affected. That's the first consequences we are expecting from the collapse of the grain deal. The second consequence that we are fearing is resuming of military operation in the areas surrounding Odessa and the Black Sea. Until now, the grain deal operated like a de facto ceasefire in the region around Odessa and the Black Sea. So we are expecting that warfare is going to increase, and we are quite concerned about the fate of civilian population living in this area.
Hunger has become quite an issue globally with inflation prices, drought, climate change. I understand you just released a report on your organization's assessment of where things are globally with the issue of hunger. It's very worrisome.
It is, indeed. It is a very worrisome situation. And the collapse of the grain deal just comes on top of previous factors and previous situations that have unfolded. Just looking back 2 years ago, we had the COVID pandemic, which was also quite critical for people and their livelihoods. So there has been a huge loss of revenues and wages across the planet, but this has been hitting harder on the poorest population in the Southern Hemisphere. You were mentioning climate change. It is already having a dramatic impact on food production. And now the grain deal is going to add an extra layer of complication with prices soaring up. So hunger is not only a matter of empty stomachs, it's also a matter of very complex issues being intricated at the political level, at the economical level, and the collapse of the grain deal is just adding an extra layer of complication to address food insecurity across the world.
What do you say to the fact that food and hunger seem to be becoming more and more of a sort of political weapon?
This is very true. We're saying that since last year, it's more than 122 million more people who are suffering from hunger. And hunger becomes, and access to food becomes now a weapon of war. So and I'm not only talking about Ukraine and Russia, we're also seeing the situation in numerous countries where we are working. And we are seeing that belligerents are using access to food insurance, access to markets as weapon of war. There have been blockages, road blockages, there have been farmers chased from their lands. And this is the warfare technique that belligerents are using to reduce the capacity of communities to be resilient in the face of conflict.
Garella, Regional Director of Operations for the nonprofit Action Against Hunger.